Chapter 8. I was writing my novel with great pleasure, pressing the keys of my typewriter in front of me, while enjoying the setting sun with the curtains of my hotel room pulled all the way down. As the sun disappeared little by little between the green and huge mountains, it painted the sky blood red. While I was paying all my attention to the letters scattered on the pages, I heard a click behind my ear. As my eyes widened in panic, I lifted my head from the typewriter and listened to the sound again. While I was holding my breath, the door was knocked again with all its insistence. I pushed the chair under me and ran towards the door. "Who are you?" My ear moved a little closer to the door. "It's me, Mr. Ralph, the employee," said the tall, short-haired officer. I opened the door slowly, and while the gas lamps burning in the corridor were flickering, I could see the faces of the employee and the woman standing right next to him in silhouette. "Mr. Ralph, good evening. I am disturbing you," but I had an explanation. Without taking my body out from behind the door. "Of course, I'm listening to you," I said. "Grandma Paloma, would it be a problem if she stayed as a guest in your room for a few days since there are no rooms in our hotel?" I looked at the woman with her long white hair braided as the employee lowered her bright, embarrassed eyes to the ground. Her pink lips that added color to her wrinkled skin were smiling while looking at me. I smiled involuntarily and said, "Of course, she can stay. There's no harm in it." While the employee was smiling at the old woman, the well-dressed woman, who looked quite vigorous despite her age, entered my room with her bag in her hand. "Good night, sir. Thank you for your kindness." I closed the door while smiling and nodding. While I was walking towards my desk again, Grandma Paloma was looking around the room with curious eyes. "Thank you, son. You didn't leave me out on a night like this." "Don't worry. I won't disturb you at all. Just mind your business." He was sitting at the end of the other bed with helpless eyes. I continued writing my novel as I returned to my typewriter with calm eyes. "Of course, sir." "Are you a writer?" When my fingers stopped moving between the keys of the typewriter, I turned to him. Her braided white hair sparkled in the dim light. "Actually, it's not quite. But also, Commander," his eyes sparkled as they opened. "You know, my husband is also a soldier. I am waiting for him. He will arrive in a few days." Smiling, I sat up in my chair and turned my face to him. "How nice. Always be happy. Why are you in a hotel like this and not at home?" "I wanted to stay away from home. I was very bored at home because we had just left the war, so I chose this place to rest my mind." She looked me up and down with her eyes while pursing her lips. "Do you have a loved one or a loved one?" I couldn't swallow. My cheeks turned red, and I looked away from Grandma Paloma. "Even your looks show it. You are in love, my dear. By the way, what is your name?" "Ralph, Grandma Paloma." "Ralph. How lucky the girl you love is. You are a hot young man, my son." He praised me, his voice trembling and his eyes looking me up and down. "Bill Mukabil, sir. I am proud." As I stared at the red sky with embarrassment, the sun was gone and the stars began to shine on one side of the deep night. "May God reunite you with your loved one after this difficult war," he said while smiling at me. Cheered by his wish, I too sincerely said, "Amen, Grandma Paloma, amen," I said. I closed the curtain so that he wouldn't be disturbed and continued writing. Later that night, I took a break from my novel, and he was still sitting watching me from the end of his bed. His eyes were filled with tears, and after checking the pages at the end of the typewriter, I turned to him. "Grandma Paloma, what happened? Why aren't you asleep yet?" He couldn't swallow, and while wiping his tears with the handkerchief he held in his palm, he spoke in a shaky and misty voice. "I missed him so much, my child." "Your wife?" I said, while running my curious eyes over him. "Home." "Yes, my son Ralph. I miss him very much. I can't forget Karam's gaze and the softness of his hand." "Was his name Karam?" He sobbed while sniffling. "Yes, I found him very similar to you. He was such a young man, too." While I couldn't stop my eyes from filling with tears, I couldn't swallow for a while. "Don't worry, Grandma Paloma. She will come as soon as possible, Mr. Karam." He looked away from me while interlocking his fingers. Yes, but one misses the one he loves, my son. Even if he is in his heart and closest to him, he misses him." I just looked at his face, not knowing what to say. We talked with Grandma Paloma until the late hours of the night. This was so good for me that when I went to bed, I felt relieved, thinking that my novel would be finished, and I fell asleep with a pleasant tiredness. As I woke up in the early morning hours with the sound of the tulle curtains sliding from the cornices, bright sunlight filled my eyes. When I forced my eyes open, I saw Grandma Paloma's braided white hair. "Good morning, son," she said, smiling at me. "Good morning, Grandma Paloma." I stood up, pushing the quilt. As I was walking to my desk with shy eyes, there was a knock on the room's door. Grandma Paloma walked towards the door with small steps and opened the door. The hotel employee adjusted his cap. "The next room is empty, Grandma Paloma. We can take you there," she said. Grandma Paloma immediately grabbed her bag from her bed and walked out the door, hunched over and waving her cotton-like white hair. Just as the hotel employee was about to close the door and leave, I called out to him. "Excuse me?" "Here you go, sir." He straightened the collar of his loose shirt. Grandma Paloma's husband, Karim, was coming. "I think he is," I said. The hotel employee laughed in a whisper, showing his teeth yellowed from cigarettes. I don't understand what's so funny. Afraid of my determined words and straight looks, he suddenly pulled himself together. "I'm sorry, sir. Grandma Paloma always comes and goes to our hotel. We don't really want to buy it. But when we press for the money, we just let her in by remaining silent." I hastily interrupted him. "Why don't you want to buy it?" My eyebrows were knitted and my forehead wrinkled. Grandma Paloma was once told by her fiancé, Karim, the man you just mentioned is her husband, "Let's relax in this hotel. You rest. Let me finish my work in Istanbul and come back. Then let's get married without ever leaving." Since then, he has been coming to the hotel from time to time. He has mental problems, brother, as you can understand. My eyes widened in surprise as my mouth opened. How? How so? Is this true?" "Yes, sir, it's true. Grandma Paloma always says that she is waiting for him. No one comes or goes." He looked down bitterly and curled his lips. "Anyway, sir, I'm sorry we disturbed you." "It doesn't matter," I said and closed the door slowly. I was still in shock as I stared at the bright sunlight pouring into the room through the white-framed windows. Love was such a thing that you could even lose your mind to be with it. I suddenly smiled involuntarily, imagining Grandma Paloma's moving narratives. The love within him somehow kept hope alive. Perhaps it was a love as precious as a diamond. I went down to the hotel restaurant to change my clothes, took my breakfast plate, and ate my toast along with my steaming tea. When I left the hotel door without wasting any time, a sweet breeze carried the scents of linden, geranium, and cherry to my nose. I got into my junk car and headed to the headquarters. When I arrived in front of the headquarters, I had never seen the market so crowded. My lips were smiling. My mouth was reaching from ear to ear. I quickly entered the door of the headquarters and climbed the steps. "Good morning, Ralph Pasha." Enver was smiling. "Good morning, Enver. Good luck. You are very happy." I smiled while looking at his face. He continued his speech while his tobacco-scented breath licked my face. "The radio will give very good news soon. Pasha, we are waiting for it." I quickly entered my room, checking the watch on my wrist. Enver, Sasevar, and Tullet came after me. As I took the radio from the table and placed it on the Fisco, beads of sweat dripped from my forehead and wet my back. I turned on the radio, and after a loud hiss, the weak voice of the announcer was heard. Yes, dear listeners, while the enemy was withdrawing step by step from every corner of our country, he also accepted that he was defeated in Canakkale. This sacred homeland is ours. It will remain ours. While our Sultan and governors left their country alone in these painful days and fled with British ships, the dear Turkish nation fought to the last drop of blood. Children, young and old, we will continue to fight in these lands with all our strength. Happy our victory. Happy March 18th Canakkale victory. When the announcer finished his speech, we hugged each other with tearful eyes. We hugged so tightly that our fingers could be hooked into each other's backs. I couldn't control my tears. While tears were dripping from the tip of my nose to my lips, I stared at the ceiling of the room with my misty eyes. Allah. Oh Allah. Thank you. I almost jumped into the air with happiness. I turned on the folk song on the radio, ignoring the smell of humidity and dampness in the room. Dear clerk, the blackest part of my fate. The henna of your separated hands. Even if it's Ramelia's turn to say goodbye. Does my heart beat away from my homeland? While I was looking out the window with determined eyes, my fingers were clenched into a fist. I clenched my teeth and felt the taste of blood coming from between my teeth on my palate. Sasevar whispered with tearful eyes. The spirit of union and progress won. My Pasha, the heart of the nation won. A bright future awaits us for our homeland. My heart should not beat outside the shadow of this flag. Amine, they said in unison. A proud smile was reflected on my lips while I was singing along to the folk song playing on the radio. Here, I look at freedom from this window. I look at free people, streets, birds. This fire was lit within the Western Front and spread throughout the country. You're the only one missing, Irva, in these streets running towards freedom. The only thing missing is our love and the leakage of our souls, I mumbled under my breath. From now on, I will come to you. I will run to you with my novels and my art. It's time to finish the novel, Pasha. Spring has already come to Aksahir. What did you say, Shasuver? I say it's time to finish the novel, Ralph Pasha. Spring has already come to Aksahir. Bringing a helpless smile to my lips, I turned to Saysavar. Now it's time to turn our unfinished story into a novel. Saysavar, my friend's painful gaze bent to the ground. I opened my arms and hugged my friend. When I saw Enver's eyes turning red and sobbing inwardly, I added with my fake smile to dispel the gloomy atmosphere in the room. Friends, we are celebrating tonight, right? Congratulations. We celebrate, Pasha said Tullet, wiping his tears. I wish Fute was there. I wish Sesmi was with us, my Pasha. They are always with us. They are always at our table anyway, Enver. I had a hard time keeping myself from crying. When I saw the flag waving in the post, I thought of Sesmi's strong arms hanging on the rope. That flag will never come down from there. Sesmi, this country will never fall. Fute, rest easy, okay? We went out with lazy steps while our leather boots echoed on the wooden floor. There were dozens of unfinished stories in this land, dozens of unfinished dreams in this country. These half-stories and dreams presented a blessed epic to the glorious Turkish nation. Come on, Ralph Pasha, it's getting close to time for you to go. Ah, but Tullet, do not cause gloom in our hearts anymore. We had buried the storms inside us. Maybe we were going to go home and cry under the covers. I thought of Grandma Paloma and smiled bitterly, imagining the endless hope in her heart. What are you laughing at, Pasha? I laugh at the never-ending hope and love, Saysavar. You can't accept the opposite. It remains what it is in your mind. Your life is wasted waiting for the train at that last station that will never come, but a part of your heart is always lying to you. My heart ached as I descended the wooden steps. I look at these walls for the last time. I see the sunrise from the window for the last time. I remembered the night I met Irva. I remembered how warm I felt while holding the novel she handed me with her icy hand. We left our hearts, not our memories, to this headquarters. Maybe our farewell would be this painful, but it was always better to hope for the one I loved. As I walked away step by step, I looked at the West Front and its windows. I fought hard. My revolutionary heart was bleeding too much to bear this farewell. Goodbye, Western Front. Goodbye, Ralph, Commander's lively heart. I covered my mouth with my hands and sobbed. While I was wiping my tears with the square embroidered handkerchief I took out of my pocket, I came across the place where Sesmi's blood was stained that night. As I inhaled the acrid smell, I left the Western Front headquarters behind on the crushed stone street. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. As the sun was setting, Aksahir skies were painted a purplish color. The snow had completely melted, and the scent of cherry blossoms mixed with the scent of linden washed the streets of Aksahir. I took one last look at myself before taking off my broadcloth uniform. With my broad shoulders, my tall height, my bright eyes, my wavy hair parted in the middle, and my wire-rimmed glasses on my nose, I managed to stand taller than my age. My heart was beating with excitement as I was going to wear different clothes for the first time in a long time. After taking off my broadcloth uniform, I put on my linen shirt and corduroy trousers. While stroking my curly mustache, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself for a long time. My beard started to appear again and became more pointed, but I hung my uniform on the hanger without worrying. While I was looking at the blood grains that occasionally spattered on my dark broadcloth uniform, there was a knock on my room door with great insistence. I adjusted the collar of my shirt and stepped towards the door. "Who are you?" "It is us, Ralph Pasha, it is us." Saysavar's very cheerful voice was heard in my ears. When I opened the door, it seemed like someone else was standing in front of the door. Saysavar, Enver, and Tullet took off their uniforms and became completely different people. "Wow, Ralph Pasha, you have become younger." I forced a bitter smile through my dry lips. "You have become completely different people, friends." While adjusting his faded shirt, Tullett added, "There is a life outside the war, Ralph Pasha." It was getting dark, and the stars were starting to shine in the dark sky. I closed the open window of my room with the tulle curtain tightly and went out to my friends waiting in the corridor. Saysavar had combed her long and wavy hair and trimmed her mustache, while Tullett and Enver had combed their brightly colored hair and left their mustaches natural. Hotel life was good too, Ralph Pasha. Seriously, sometimes change is good, as long as the heart accepts it. While Enver's admiring gaze was wandering over the decorated walls of the hotel, I said with a smile, "Good, good. I can't lie now." It was a good excuse to finish my novel, especially after coming out of the war fire that created trauma in this country. As we descended the stairs, an involuntary bitterness came to our faces again. As I approached the restaurant, the smell of oil mixed with the smell of fried fish was licking my nose. I looked at each of their faces one by one with a smile. "Friends, we have left behind a very difficult war. May our lives be a little sad-free today," I said, as I entered the door of the restaurant and selected an empty table. Enver shook his head while stroking his mustache with determination. "The window seat over there is empty, sir. Is that suitable for you?" While the waiters showed us the place with a glass window overlooking the green grass-covered garden, we passed through the occupied tables and sat at that table. Strong hums were echoing in my ears in the restaurant, which was lit by a flickering and pale oil lamp. As we sat down on the wire chairs and interlaced our fingers on the table, a waiter with a faded shirt approached our table. "What will you buy, sir?" While grimacing at the smell of fried oil, I told him our agreed-upon order. "Let's have a portion of trout each." As the waiter nodded politely and headed towards the kitchen, I was distracted by Enver's voice. "Ralph Pasha, when will you go to Thessaloniki?" I sighed helplessly and fixed my eyes on the green garden with a jug in the middle. In a few days, my heart hurt as I swallowed hard. "It shouldn't have happened this early, Pasha." I turned my gaze to Tullett. "Love and love do not like to wait, Tullett," I whispered through my lips. As soon as our table fell into deep silence, the waiter placed the fish plates on our table. While pomegranate fried trout adorned the table, we clinked our gum-white drinks in the air and said, "To the beauty of our life," I said. "To your beauty and health, Pasha, and of course to our never-ending friendship." As we clinked our glasses in the air, shining with the oil of the drink, our occasional laughter echoed throughout the restaurant. While we were eating the fish in front of us with great pleasure, our turnips and drinks were emptying one by one. As the drink warmed my veins and spread throughout my body, I felt pleasantly dizzy. Our deep conversation was left unfinished when we finished our meals. Our faces looked like silhouettes as the light of the gas lamp cast a tumultuous gloom in the restaurant. "Come on, let's go out to the garden. We deserve a spring evening with a soft breeze after the harsh cold." When I sat up by pushing the chair under me, my head slowly turned. When I left the restaurant, the lobby felt very quiet after the hum that filled my ears. The books lined up in rows in the library behind the armchairs in the lobby, illuminated by a flickering candlelight on the edge of the wall, caught my attention. Without making a fuss, I slipped out the white door. A gentle breeze was caressing my entire skin, starting from the roots of my hair. "Pasha, are you okay?" "I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm just a little drunk," I said excitedly, without lowering my voice. "Let's sit at the table under the plane tree," I continued, pointing with my trembling index finger to the table with its dried branches and shadow. While my friends agreed with me, they buried themselves in their thick coats to protect themselves from the bitter wind. After sitting on the chairs, I asked with curious eyes, "What will we drink, friends?" Enver blew his hands, which were red from the cold. "A coffee would be good, Pasha. A hot coffee would be really good for the drink when the water is cold." While we were taking heavy sips of our double-roasted, bitter and fragrant coffee, Enver asked, "How will you live in Thessaloniki, my Pasha? I mean, won't you feel like a stranger?" While twisting my lower lip helplessly, I took another strong sip of my coffee that warmed the palm of my hand. "I will request my appointment and continue my work there." "So, Ralph Pasha, are you determined not to take part in the political side of the Committee of Union and Progress?" He intervened and wrapped his cashmere scarf around his neck. "I am determined, Enver, because I made a promise to Erva. From now on, I will leave politics and turn completely to art and literature." As time progressed, the weather was getting colder and the wind was getting stronger. We will always know you as the brave-hearted Ralph, commander of the Committee of Union and Progress, Pasha, said Sasavar, while avoiding me with his timid eyes. This was our last evening, my Pasha. A part of our hearts will always be missing when you are gone. We are so glad we met you. While nodding my head as if agreeing with Enver's words, I let out the air I had collected in my mouth. Thank you for everything, friends. It was a great honor to leave a bloody war behind and bring our country to a bright future with you, with our hearts burning with the love of revolution. I'm glad you're my comrades. I'm glad I got to know you. As the huge shadow of the plane tree fell on us, Enver stood up from his chair and spoke. We will only have one last surprise for you, Pasha. What is it? While my moist lips curled up happily under my curly mustache, I parted my hair in the middle with the back of my hand. I can't say, Pasha, please be ready in the morning. While I was looking at them meaninglessly, they were smiling at me slyly with their hands in their pockets. Well, let's see in the morning then. I'm looking forward to the morning. Good night, Ralph Pasha. Please wake up early in the morning. While sending them off towards the exit door of the hotel, Tullet warned them with his excited voice. While my delicate body was shivering from the cold that hit my skin like a slap, I rushed inside with quick steps. The orange light of the fireplace burning in the lobby caught my eye, and its warmth licked my face. I climbed the stairs with desperate steps. At the end of the corridor, right in front of my room door, a silhouetted darkness was just staring at me. He was short and slightly chubby. As my steps slowed down and my eyes squinted, I was trying to make out the silhouette that was not fully visible. As the gas lamps burning on the wall lost their effect, I was looking at the end of the corridor with squinted eyes. After taking a few more steps, I saw that it was Grandma Paloma waiting for me in front of the door. Grandma Paloma, I called to the end of the corridor. Oh, baby, I was waiting for you too. I ran towards him and stood in front of the door. Good luck, Grandma Paloma? Without taking his misty eyes off me. Trouble. I came to share my troubles, my dear, but if you have something to do, I can go, he said. He spoke as if whispering with his trembling voice, and his eyes were misty. No, Grandma Paloma, can such a thing ever happen? I needed a friend to share my troubles with, I said, bringing a smile to my lips. She smiled with her pink lips while stroking her cotton-like white hair. When I entered the room and closed the door, I went to my desk and sat in front of my typewriter. He approached me, shuffling his feet, and laid down on the messy bed. Nights are long, my child Ralph. Long, Grandma Paloma. Especially long for those who are waiting. My gaze was caught in the moonlight leaking through the tulle curtain. What was the name of the woman you loved? Air, he said and couldn't continue. While smiling bitterly, I corrected his words. Irva, Grandma Paloma. Irva. You will reunite with Irva now, right? While my pupils were shining, I curled up happily in the chair I was sitting on. Home. Yes, Grandma, I will be reunited. While sighing deeply, she smoothed her hair that had escaped from her riding. Appreciate your loved ones, okay? Don't hurt him. Don't make him sad. Smile at him so much that he pales in comparison to the light of the sun. I intertwined my fingers between my legs and thought for a while with absent-minded eyes. Is it possible not to love Grandma Paloma? I'm leaving Axahir, the city I love, and going to Thessaloniki after him. He looked me up and down with his sparkling eyes that sparkled even in the dim light. She sighed deeply as she wiped her teary eyes with the handkerchief she took out of the pocket of her tulle dress. I stood up from the chair I was sitting on and looked into her eyes while holding her hand softer than cotton. Don't cry, Grandma Paloma. Don't be sad. I'm waiting too. It's been a long time. However, Karam would not have made me wait that long. Love is such a thing that you cannot accept it. You continue to live whatever is in your mind. Your life passes by at that station waiting for the train that will never come, but your heart still sweetly entertains you. Love is a beautiful feeling, but only when it's in return, I whispered to myself, but I couldn't say that to Grandma Paloma. What I was going to say was stuck in my throat. Never give up on hoping, Grandma Paloma. Hope always refreshes your heart. I kissed her hands while wiping her eyes again with my handkerchief. She stood up from the end of the bed, and after placing a kiss on my hair, she said in her sultry voice, Come on, I'm going. Good night, my Ralph. You should appreciate Irva. Let your brave heart beat for love, he said, leaving the room by dragging his feet on the carpeted floor and closing the door slowly. I was once again left alone with the typewriter in front of me. While my fingers were rapidly moving between the typewriter keys, my thoughtful amber eyes were shining under the light of the gas lamp. While I was wandering between the lines of the novel, I could smell blood and gunpowder from time to time. When I looked up from my typewriter, I had put an end to my novel. Looking at the full pages in front of me, I gave an involuntary smile of pride. While the smell of straw yellow paper mixed with the smell of ink, I checked the time on the leather strap watch on my wrist. It was well past midnight. My eyes caught my silver cigarette case sitting right behind my typewriter. I remembered how dry my lips were and how much my lungs wanted this puree. As I leaned back in my chair, I lit my cigarette and inhaled deeply. While the bitter smell of tobacco was filling the small hotel room, I took the wad of paper from the end of the typewriter and put it in the most careful place of the drawer. When my cigarette got smaller, I put it in the ashtray and fell asleep, looking at the Axahir houses with sad eyes. Ralph Potham. Ralph Potham. A strong voice was roaring from behind the door, punching the door with its fingers. As I forced my eyes open, the sun had painted the twilight with blood red, and the roosters in the gardens of the houses with bay windows were just beginning to crow. Opening one of my eyes, I lifted the quilt at my feet and stood up. When I stepped to the door and opened it with sleepy eyes, I saw my friends in front of me. Good morning, friends. Morning? Enver raised his hands in the air with joy while smiling. To the bath, Pasha, to the bath. What bathhouse? I was muttering through my lips in my sleepy state. Gaverham, mommy, Pasha, to Gaverham. I rubbed my eyes with my dry, bony fingers. Okay, guys, but I didn't expect it this early. Saysavar intervened. You can enjoy the bath early, Pasha. With half-asleep eyes, I changed, got ready, and soon found myself walking down the stairs. As the sun was just rising, there was a dim light inside the hotel. While everyone was in a deep sleep, the hotel was resting in its own cuteness. As I was leaving the hotel door, I asked all three of them, "Where did you come up with this bath idea?" As Tullet smiled, his teeth yellowed from nicotine were visible. Potham, you are leaving today. Wash yourself with the healing water of Axahir so that your body will be healthy and well-being. While our laughter was ringing in the bay-windowed and colorful Axahir houses in the first light of the morning, the sound of the morning adhan was heard from the Grand Mosque. While the engine sound of my junk car was echoing on the crushed stone streets, we headed to the bathhouse. While steam was rising from the huge domes overlooking Axahir, the sun emerging from the green mountains resembled a ball of fire. We parked my veteran in a quiet corner and entered through the narrow door of the Gaver bath. While the flickering lights of the gas lamp burning in the small built-ins illuminated the corridor, we entered, bowing our heads. We took our loincloths and towels and entered the bath with our naked bodies. While steam was rising from between the stone walls, two men were bathing in the cranes on the edge of the navel stone. So we got into the empty cranes and soaked our dry bodies in hot water. Who thought of this? Saysavar continued while licking the drops of water dripping from his mustache. I made sense, Pasha. I was angry this morning, but it felt so good that I wish you a happy life. Good health, Pasha. I smiled as I poured hot water from the iron bowl onto my head. The taste of Gaver Hammam is different, Ralph Pasha. As I dispersed the steam in front of my eyes, we came face to face with Tullet's delightful eyes. I swear it is so. Enver patted my back and showed me the belly stone. You want to appear clean and tidy in front of Ms. Erva, don't you, Pasha? Well, I guess, I whispered as I lay on the hot belly stone. My military friends taught me not only about being a revolutionary and officer who shares the same heart, but also about brotherhood. When I left Axahir behind, I would undoubtedly be very sad to leave my friends. I felt relieved when we finished our bath time. Our faces were shining, and we had relieved the pain of a tiring war in the Gaver bath. The time to say goodbye to this city was approaching. When we came out of the bath, the sun had already risen and the birds were presenting their most beautiful compositions to the blue and bright sky. The bathhouse was in such a place that we could look down on Axahir houses with bay windows. For a while, I watched the colorful streets of Axahir, leaning on the moldy iron bars in front of the domes. I will miss you very much. I existed with your memory. I will grow old with you, Axahir. While quickly wiping away the tears that dripped from the tip of my nose, I jumped behind the wheel of my car and headed to the hotel. I was checking all my belongings one by one and at the same time saying goodbye to Axahir. I couldn't swallow while zipping up my suitcase, and I felt very helpless at that moment. Chapter 9. The yellow facade of the train station building looked so sad to me. I couldn't even look at the faces of my friends walking side by side with me. We entered through the door with Ateş train station written on the blue sign. People were in crowds, some waiting for their guests, some waiting for the carriage to get on. The greatest novel is written by train stations. I thought of despair, love, sadness, and reunion, maybe even separation. We sat helplessly on one of the wooden benches on the side of the long train track behind the yellow building. Pasha. My Pasha, never forget this city, these memories, okay? Saysavar could not hold herself back and bent her gaze forward while tears were flowing. Think of this as a short farewell, okay? I will return with Erva. This statement did not give my friends hope at all. Believe me, it is very difficult, Pasha. After our togetherness and friendship with you, how can we enter that headquarters? How can we pass in front of your house? How can we look at the skies of Ateş? I smiled bitterly. You'll get used to it, Saysavar. When a person becomes helpless, he endures the things you list with such pain. You have to become bearable now. Farewells make you stronger. My voice was disturbed by the bitter chatter of the coal train. I stood up from where I was sitting while announcing that the train was approaching the station. My friends also stood up. Silüet, Saysavar, and Enver were looking away from me with their red eyes from crying, while they were constantly looking at the stone floor. Friends, I couldn't swallow, my eyes filled with tears. I spent my hardest but best days with you. I entrusted my heart to you, my dear friends. I laughed with you. I cried with you. I've talked to you more than I like. I also have friends who are not among us, because they are heroes. I leave only Ateş behind. Memories, friendships, love, and affection come with me in my heart, riding this train with me. Saysavar, Silüet, Enver, Silüet, and Sesmi, I am so glad I met you, my friends, with all your help. As the brave men of the Committee of Union and Progress, we fought until our last drop of blood in this city. My revolutionary heart is very tired. Now art will give it rest. Farewell, my friends. Farewell, Ateş. Farewell, beautiful Ateş. While the four of us were hugging each other tightly, the train approached the platform, spewing ash-colored smoke. Farewell, Rauf Pasha. Farewell until we meet again. Ateş is always waiting for you here. Saysavar intervened with her sultry voice. Congratulations to you and Erva Hanım. While hugging my friend, perhaps for the last time, he said. Mayper, take care of my daughter. Don't make her sad. Love her more than your life, I said. I gave the advice that Grandma Paloma gave me to my friend Saysavar. While the conductor's chatter was ringing in my ears, I left my friends and waved to them. Okay, Rauf Pa. My Pasha, said Saysavar behind me. I walked into the train with my suitcases in my hands and sat in one of the empty seats. It was time to go, and at that moment, while looking at my friends from the train window, I couldn't help but sob. The train was already sliding on the iron rails, heading towards Thessaloniki. While my eyes were constantly misty, I could not see the trees, red-tiled houses, and electric poles flowing through the glass like a film strip. As I helplessly leaned my head on the edge of the chair I was sitting on, my eyes slowly closed and I fell asleep. The next morning, the train stopped at Thessaloniki station. Realizing that I had come to the last stop, I quickly packed up and got off the train. I was terribly hungry, so I bought a bagel from the middle-aged man selling bagels at the bottom of the pale wall of the station, and I bit off big bites of the bagel and babbled under my breath. When I walked in front of the station with the suitcases in my hands, cars were buzzing by, and from time to time, fancy phaetons accompanied this traffic. Thessaloniki, I whispered through my teeth. It turns out how big it is, too much to fit into my dreams. I saw a Cadillac in front of the train station. While the red Cadillac was running, he approached the man with the thin mustache, showed him the address Erva had given him, and said, I'm going to this address. Can you take me to where you go? I asked. The man straightened his thin mustache and read the address written on the paper with narrowed eyes. Then he looked at me with his suggestive gaze. Hop in, let's go together. I'm going there too. I had my suitcases on my lap as I sat in the front seat of the bright red Cadillac. While one part of my heart was crying blood, the other part of me almost died of excitement to be reunited with Erva. While the Cadillac was roaring through the historical streets of Thessaloniki, the man pushed the sunglasses that had fallen on the tip of his nose back into place with the index finger of his left hand and said with warning eyes, "This address you went to is a bit crowded today. Be careful," he said. "Thank you, sir, for your warning," I said. There were houses with bay windows here too, but they were different from those in Axihir. While floods of people were flowing over the pavements, it was as if there had been no war in Thessaloniki. The red Cadillac stopped in front of a row of villa-style houses. The man, with his breath smelling like mint gum. "This is it. Follow this street and find the number from the address you have, angry girl," he said. "I am grateful for everything, sir. I wish you a good day." The man chose to remain silent while adjusting the rearview mirror. When I got out of the car with the suitcases in my hands, the Cadillac had disappeared, leaving a cloud of dust behind. There were extremely luxurious houses where I was. I started watching the door numbers. While pools with marble fountains decorated the gardens of the houses and purple bougainvilleas adorned the walls, the shutters on the windows were tightly closed. After taking a few more steps, I stopped in front of a snow-white villa. "Number 15, this is it," I said, staring at the facade of the house for a while. Just as I was approaching the garden gate with the suitcases in my hands, the door of the house opened. A tall, handsome man with dark skin and well-shaped hair came out from the front, and Irva came out behind him, swinging the frills of her tulle dress. While Irva placed a kiss on the man's lips, she sent him off to work in her Mercedes, which was waiting right in front of the door. Yes, Irva married a very rich merchant and settled in this villa. I couldn't swallow as my eyes filled with tears, and I cried while blowing back my hair, which was sticking to my forehead and obscuring my eyes due to sweat. While I was sobbing, the suitcases in my hands fell to the ground and my typewriter was broken into pieces. While the merchant was going to work, we came face to face with Irva. I took a long step towards him. She hugged my neck, sobbing, and I didn't feel like hugging her as I inhaled her scent. "I had to, Ralph. I really had to. I came to you with my dreams. I loved you in my dreams, but it didn't happen. Irva. Farewell." March 20th, 1915. I'm in Axihir again. As I write this letter, the pen in my hand scratches my conscience and makes my heart bleed. I came to you. I ran to you with all my hopes while looking forward to the day I would meet you. Yes, my heart deceived me while I was waiting at that train station for the train that would never come again. My eyes were swollen from crying. My heart cried blood. I've never liked saying goodbye, but there are many things in this short life of mine that I would say goodbye to without you. I don't enjoy living anymore. My tears have dried. As I write the word farewell into these lines for you, my soul gets stuck and I disappear. Your wavy hair falling into foam on my shoulders, your hazel eyes shining when you look into my eyes, your wet lips that become moist while kissing me. I'm leaving this letter to my friends. They wanted my love as much as I did. I made you very sad too, forgive me, friends. You ask me if I hate Irva. No, I still love her very much. Now and in the future. I will love you, Irva, even if we are in a bitter war. I said, the war of our homeland is over, the war of my heart has begun. While the straw yellow paper is being filled, my cigarette burning in my ashtray, and my revolver on the side of my table accompany this letter. I was captured at that moment. My heart couldn't handle this love even when the brunette man was kissing you. Even I don't know how I loved. My little heart is trapped in pitch darkness. I don't know if I loved you or if I love loving you, but I'm madly in love with you. I came to this hotel room secretly from everyone. I am writing these farewell lines to you secretly from everyone. While you read these, I will be watching you from far away. My heart is so heavy for this love. Like Grandma Paloma, I have never given up on waiting, and I never will. I love you very much, Irva. The fragments of hope in my heart are still here. My tears fall on the paper from time to time. Maybe it was a great pleasure to hold on to life with your voice, to even be able to hold your hands and look into your eyes. I finished the novel Crime and Punishment you left me. Everyone had something to do. My fault was loving you too much, Irva. Loving. Being loved and love were such beautiful feelings. These feelings will live in a novel now, Irva, and will be hidden in the novel that I want you to read, too. The brave-hearted commander of the Axihir Western Front was as soft as cotton when he held your hands. Oh, and before I forget, Grandma Paloma loved you very much, Irva. She loved our love very much. I was talking about you to her every night while watching Axe from the window of Garb Hotel. Irva, it wasn't just the typewriter that fell and shattered in front of the villa. My hopes, love, excitement, and passion were also shattered. I don't want to live anymore. I know I won't enjoy it even if I do. My only hope was Mustafa Kemal's burning eyes when I was telling him about you. The moment I looked into your eyes for the last time, the moment I held your hands for the last time, the moment I kissed your lips for the last time, and the moment I felt your heartbeat for the last time were the happiest moments of my life. I didn't know. Irva, I didn't know. May our love be kept on the most beautiful shelf of the Museum of Innocence. May your fragrant handkerchief, the novel you gave me as a gift, and the tulle dress you were wearing when you fell in front of me that night in the snow, all of them be kept as a beautiful memory. I love you, Irva. I love you so much that I hope for the impossible. I put the pen in my hand aside and picked up my revolver. After putting a bullet in its barrel, I put my shaking hands over my heart. After closing my eyes, I moistened my dry lips and pressed the trigger without thinking while smelling Irva's handkerchief. As the bullet pierced my heart, the blood gushing from my heart stained the paper red. As the gun loosened from my fingers and fell to the wooden floor, my head fell on the table and my red fez rolled to the ground. I killed myself with my revolver, which I protected like my honor. Well, maybe love meant completing the unfinished stories with your own blood. My soul, which had left my body, was just looking at my lifeless body covered in blood. It didn't happen in this world, but in my next life, I will be waiting ready to drink your love sherbet. Look, another sun was setting in Axe. February 15th, 2022. Axe.